Before you do, I got to get ready.
Ready.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna limber up, huh? You're gonna limber up, huh?
Yeah, we're ready.
Live?
Yeah, you're live.
Okay, it's September 14th, 2024, and Mr. John J. Jeckovich. We're on the second segment today, reading his book, Their Mother's Sons. And we're on the chapter that's titled News of Renee's Tragic Death, page 497. And this is when Mr. Jeckovich is already out of the service, and he's working at Kimberly-Clark. And he met his his fifth girlfriend named Rose, and she
Rose
works there.
Kamensky, Polak.
Rose Kamensky. Before I start up with the book, I would need your dog tag number.
42069.
Okay, do you want to read a few pages about Rose Kamensky?
And go ahead.
Or you want me to?
You read it.
Okay, so we're last...
She was ridiculous with me because she didn't want to hook up like her mother did with Bill had.
So
She liked me, but she fought it all the time. I knew it. I knew she wound up with that guy in the office.
So she didn't want to get serious because she wanted to marry an office guy,
Yeah.
a suit and tie, and she didn't want to marry a factory worker.
I know. I took her to a driver. The drivers were at night with the heaters. And she said, she told me we got talking and that, kissing all nonsense to the driver. She said, you're giving me a hard time because I don't want to get involved with you because I don't want to get involved like I did with my mother.
Okay, so she regrets her mother marrying a factory worker.
Yeah.
I see.
She was fighting that all the time.
I see.
And she was fighting that in her emotions.
Well, it turns out Rose's sister that lived upstairs, Rose's sister married a factory guy, and he worked at Kimberly. Rose's sister.
Yeah, but Rose's sister worked with Dr. Landis in the Kresge store. She worked in the office.
Yeah, the office, yeah. This was an entirely new experience for me, talking about my mother to anyone outside the family. The remarkable thing about the whole episode was I did not mind it a bit, and I enjoyed it to a certain extent. You enjoyed talking to Rose about your mother to a certain extent. I did not feel uneasy or tensed up, but rather was almost eager to talk to Rose. Naturally, I mentioned all the good points regarding Mother, and I left out all the negative aspects that Mother had. I had taken Rose's hand and was toying with her slender fingers as she continued to converse on many subjects. She talked about her sister and how on many subjects. She talked about her sister and how they were different in many respects, but on the most important issues they agreed fully. She mentioned her parents, the love she felt for them, and how she would be heartsick to have to leave them. She also talked a little bit about herself and how she was always self-conscious and drawn into herself. She stated she did not make friends easily and as a consequence did not have many close friends. She made up for it by reading a lot and learning from...
She's living the same life I did.
So she read a lot. But your reading was a little bit different. I don't think Rose had to hide their books. When you had to read at home, you had to hide your books because what would your mother say about your book?
You're spending money on books and we're starving here.
So your mother would say, you're spending and wasting money on books.
Yeah.
And we're starving here.
Yeah.
So what did you have to do with your books?
Put them underneath the bed.
Isn't it interesting? Any mother today would love to get their kids off the damn cell phones and have them read an actual book. While your mother said that was not a good thing to read books because you're wasting money on them. How did you buy these books?
How did I buy? Book of the Month Club.
Uh-huh. And then how much was a book per month?
Well, we got the reading a couple of days before the Book of the Month was due, and they give a little summary of the book that you're going to get, and that's how I bought them.
And so where would you hide these books again? Where would you hide these books again?
Underneath the bed.
I see. And how did you receive the books by mail that your mother didn't intercept?
Well, because I got home before she did.
Oh. What was the mail like today? Because I know today we're in bad shape.
Twice a day.
I know today we're in bad shape with the U.S. mail. Hardly get anything.
Twice a day the mail came in.
So what time would that be?
Be 9 o'clock in the morning and 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
And the mail would come twice a day?
Yeah.
6 days a week?
Winter, summer.
No kidding. And so you were there to get your books before your mother got an eye on them?
Yeah.
Okay. Did your brother Lookie have a book of the month club?
No. I was reading the Wall Street Journal. What the hell are you reading that Wall Street Journal for, you stupid ass?
So your brother actually told you why you're reading the Wall Street Journal?
Yeah.
Why would he do that?
He said, well, why are you reading the Wall Street Journal? You're a stupid middlehead.
I don't understand. I mean, you don't have to be an office guy to read the Wall Street Journal. Anyone can read it.
Well, your position in life.
I don't know.
I was a middlehead, and middlehead's supposed to read comic books and shit like that. Or not read
Did you
at all.
read comic books?
No, I never.
There
No.
you go. You answered your own question. Let's see where I was. Let's see. Okay. She also talked a little bit about herself and said she was self-conscious and drawn into herself. All the while she was talking, I held her hand and she would squeeze mine now and then, putting her other hand on top of mine. She began to talk about her work and how most of the time it was drab and routine, and some of the time she hated to come to work. She thought the people she worked with were boring and wearisome. All they talked about were men and bowling. So the lady she worked with only talked about men and bowling.
Yeah.
Okay. Bowling was a big thing then, huh?
Oh, they, boy, they 3 times a week.
And was that mostly a drinking session?
Oh, yeah.
Didn't your brother work in a bowling alley?
Setting pins, yeah.
Well, a lot of people today don't know what a pin setter is, but I'll tell you very briefly. Mr. Jeckovich's brother worked as a pin setter, and that is no easy job. A pin setter would sit behind the pin set up, and then when a bowler would throw the ball and hit the pins, you were sitting in like a little cubbyhole and hearing all the noise and all the ruckus of the pins, and then you had to jump up and reset the pins for the bowler to shoot again.
Yeah.
So you had to be fast on your feet. You had to take a lot of noise and possibly getting hit with a bowling ball or a bowling pin. It was a dangerous, hard job.
Yeah, well, yeah.
And I don't think pin setters got paid much.
The what?
I don't think pin setters got paid much money. I don't think pin setters received much money per hour.
No, well, they used to get a pin for the guys that were bowling.
Yeah, and
How fast they picked up the pins.
So they would sit in this little gully right behind the pins, and when that bowler hit those pins, you had to jump out of that little gully, set them up in that hole, and then get ready for the next set. And sometimes the pin setters, I think they're only getting back in the 40s, like 25 or 30 cents an hour. They not only had to do the one lane, they had to control 3 lanes, which was really, really difficult. And you could easily...
Yeah, there were 5, 6 lanes in that ball, yeah.
And you could easily have got injured by a runaway pin or a runaway ball. So that was no easy job. I gave your brother very credit for doing that tough job. Thank God we don't have to do that today, but if we did, I don't think you'd find any...
Well, they do that today.
Well, they have automatics today.
Yeah, who set the pins up today?
Automatic. It's all done by computer. So, did your brother work at the bowling alley long?
Yeah, he had a job steady there, yeah.
He did a good job?
Well, he did his job, yeah.
Did he meet a lot of nice friends there?
Huh?
Did he meet a lot of nice friends at the bowling alley?
Then he started drinking with those guys.
Okay, so the bowling The guys that worked at a bowling alley were drinkers.
Yeah, well, they go home in Red Spot and have a couple of slugs and talk about how great they are.
Oh, I see.
Till about 3 o'clock they go home.
Okay. I didn't know about that. Okay, so we talked about setting the pins, and then Rose said most people at work just basically talked about men or bowling. As I listened to her, I was struck with the similarity and the sameness of our perspective. It was a carbon copy of my predicament, and it became quite apparent that we're both experiencing the same impasse in our lives. We're both alike, she murmured, resting her head on my shoulder and holding my hand tightly as she continued. You're different from the rest of the people at work, she stammered, saying almost as it was a compliment. I noticed that the second time I talked to you even more when I saw you in the cafeteria. I feel that I can talk to you about some of my most inner thoughts and feelings and know that you are understood, she related, all the while clutching my hand tightly. A warm glow had overcome me, and I was finally recognized, and a heavy weight had been lifted off my chest. No one had talked to me in this manner since my time with Anne, Jean, and Renee. I felt good and I wanted Rose to continue, but it was getting late and I thought enough had been said for that one night.
Yeah.
So enough was said, right?
Yeah.
I suggested we stop for a hamburger and something to drink at Greenwald's, and she agreed. What was Greenwald's?
With a dining room
And where was that at?
on Fall Street.
Did they have good hamburgers?
Oh yeah, there was good clean place and good food. Yeah.
While I was getting our order, I tried to digest part of our conversation. There was much to think about. In one brief night, Rose had wiped the slate clean, and I'd have to do a complete 180 turn in my assessment of her. She was completely honest with me, and I should reciprocate. She deserved nothing less. I returned to the car, and she was still aglow and radiant from our conversation. I felt that she wanted to say more, but her very nature compelled her to become quiet. I was eager to continue the conversation, but did not want to press the issue. So she didn't want to press the issue.
No. She didn't want to get involved with me. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
She liked me, but she didn't want to get involved.
Okay. As we ate our snack, the conversation shifted to lighter and more trivial matters. I knew that our evening had reached its climax, and the summit had scaled with a success and much enlightenment. As I drove her home, she became quiet and reflective, perhaps turning over in my mind with she said, and she wanted to say more, but she could not. Okay, we're bouncing over to page 499. What kind of car were you driving then?
Pontiac, green Pontiac.
Ah, don't you wish you still had that?
Huh?
Don't you wish you still had that?
Yeah, and red seats in it.
Red seats, green on the outside.
Well, I had seat covers that I put in red.
Okay, so green on the outside and red on the inside.
Yeah, but when in the summertime I got sweated, if I had tan pants under my pants, I got all red.
Actually, that's a Christmas color. Those are damn Christmas tree car. Was it a 4-door, 2-door?
4.
Was it automatic or manual?
Automatic.
I see. Did it have air conditioning?
Yeah.
I see. Did it have vent windows on the side?
Yeah, little wing window, yeah.
Yeah. Did it have a big trunk?
That truck was big, yeah.
And was it an 8-cylinder or a 6-cylinder?
8.
That car must have got up and went.
Yeah.
That car must
Yeah,
have...
I liked that car. The car was nice, yeah.
Where is that car now?
Oh, Lord. In a junk peaker. Well, look at what David did with my truck. He sold it, remember?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was supposed to drive it down here. He sold it.
You're supposed to drive it down here from where?
From New York. And he sold it.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That was Tom.
Sorry to hear that. Sorry
Yeah.
to hear that.
He sold it. I said, where's my truck? He said, well, I sold it. I said, what the hell are you selling it for? You're supposed to drive it down here. Well, it'll look better to me if I sold it. I said, what did you do with the money? I got the money. I said, you're going to give me the money? Oh, no.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, bullshit.
You love that truck.
Bullshit there.
You love that truck. Sorry to hear that. Okay, let's see. As I reached her home, she reached over, kissed me lightly on the cheek, scampered out of the car saying something about seeing me in the morning, and hurried up the porch steps into the house. I thought all night at work about the events earlier with Rose and endeavored to reach more plausible conclusion regarding them. What puzzled me the most was the complete change in her attitude toward me, in particular her feeling and wanting to get away from all of it. What changed her so?
Well, she was, at work, she was exposed to all those guys who were regular yahoos. Yeah.
Okay.
See, I didn't go to the regular lunch. I didn't go bowling. I didn't do none of that stuff. I was kind of a lower.
Dennis?
13.
Did you ever bowl?
No.
Did your wife ever bowl?
No.
Okay. Can I see you tonight? She blurted out. Before I could think, wait, listen. This morning Rose was waiting for me on the road leading to work. She looked enticing and desirable in her skirt and her short coat. She greeted me warmly and wanted to know how work went. I answered by telling her how great she looked, and she was pleased at my remarks. Can I see you tonight? She blurted out. Before I could think of the repercussions, I quickly said yes. We talked for several minutes more until she had to leave before we'd be late for work. She said hurriedly, 7 o'clock tonight at my house. I watched as she walked down the road. Her walk was graceful and her stride was determined and assured, and more assured than I was at the juncture of our relationship. I had told Mother I was going to another union meeting until 10 p.m. So in order to get out, you got to tell your mother you're going to a union meeting, right? Were you in a union?
Well, it had to be. Yeah, they're closed up.
Okay, so they wouldn't allow you to work without you. Okay. And I left it at that. She did not say much, thinking it reasonable since I had to be at work at 10:30. I was beginning to feel a little like Lookie, always dashing out and never being around. As I pulled up to Rose's house, I half expected her to come out dashing, but after waiting several seconds, I went up to the front door and rang the doorbell. Rose answered the door and invited me in. She told me that her parents went out for the evening and thought we could spend the evening there if it was agreeable with me. I had no objections, and she took my jacket and returned shortly. We sat together on the couch. What kind of living room was it?
Modest.
Spacious?
Oh, no.
No. Fireplace?
No.
TV?
Yeah.
Okay. TVs were just coming out.
Yeah, TV, the small little TVs, 12-inch.
Black and white?
Black and white, yeah.
And at 11:30, everything shuts down.
I had that set up on the roof.
Okay. Let's see. I had no objections, and she took my jacket and returned shortly. We sat together on a couch, and she turned on the table radio to one of the all-music stations, and the sounds of the big bands brought back memories from the distant past. Glenn Miller?
Glenn Miller, big bands, yeah.
Glenn Miller?
Big bands were popular then, big bands.
Well, Glenn Miller's still popular today.
Yeah.
And he's been dead.
String of Pearls, yeah.
And he's been dead over 80 years. They never
Yeah.
recovered his body. Let's see. I felt comfortable with her. As a matter of fact, I was becoming more attracted to her each time I saw her. She had a dark skirt with a white short-sleeved blouse, which magnified her breasts and her figure. As she sat there, her legs crossed and her skirt went above her knees, which sent tingles of desire throughout my body. Uh-oh, here we go. Family show. If I have to delete some, I will delete. There was no mistaking this feeling, which was the only thing I was sure of at this point. I remarked that this was better than driving around. It was more home-like. She smiled and agreed, and all the while looking at me as she had found an answer to what was puzzling her. I took her hand in mine, and as I held it, I remarked that I looked forward to seeing her only for a short while, if only for a short while. I reiterated my statement I made last night about calling in sick, and she only smiled and said nothing. I wanted to see you again tonight and continue our conversation we had last night, she explained, putting her other hand on mine. She then went on to say that she was misjudged me something terrible when we first met. I thought you were like most of the people at work, brash and brazen, but I soon discovered that you're different, and I liked what you saw. She recrossed her legs but still held my hand. I listened intently, trying to find some indication as to where her thoughts and feelings were leading. She still wanted something better than what she had now, and the statement struck a nerve in me. She was still determined to rid herself of her present condition, but she had the same problem that I encountered. No solution to her predicament. She went on to say that she had thought of me as a friend.
I had what?
She went on to say she thought of me as a friend, minutes,
8.
and perhaps much more than that. She knew that I would never knowingly do anything detrimental to her well-being, and that I would look out for her best interest. I lay back my head on a couch and stared at the ceiling, absorbing what she had said. She put my head on my shoulder and whispered, "We're alike in both of us. We come from the same background, have the same likes and dislikes, and neither one of us can find an answer to what's troubling us, no matter how hard we try. This is what attracts us to each other, our struggling to find an answer to our dilemma." As I listened to her, I knew that she was correct in everything she was saying, but I gladdened my heart to hear it repeated from someone else's other than myself. I knew I now had some of the answers. But it's interesting, you could see Rose almost daily, but when you were dating Renee, you would have to take a bus, a train, and then a taxi to see her, and then you had to rush back with a taxi, train, and bus to get back to camp by midnight. So this is a lot easier.
Well, then I had the one out next to the library, a Main Street library.
What was her name?
She was, what was her name, Dorothy. She went to the University of Buffalo. She was over here on a scholarship for the summer, working at Kimberly, at the other mill.
And you met her in the library, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay. Yeah. I now had some of the answers I was seeking regarding Rose's abrupt change in behavior towards me. She now considered me a friend and more. I was delighted in her assumption, thinking perhaps this would be my first real break since coming home. Here at the last I had a companion I could entrust to my inner thoughts and desires to, someone I could relate to and take into my confidence. I jumped up. It was 11 p.m. and we had been talking all this while. All the time had quickly withered away. I again proposed my suggestion to call in sick, but Rose only smiled as she walked to me and said, I stopped and turned, and we faced each other. I gazed her in the eyes, and for the moment, that saddened look that I so quickly realized was gone. In its place was a look of hope and, yes, happiness. I took her in my arms and kissed her tenderly, her breast tightly against my chest, and I could almost feel her heart pounding as we embraced. "See you in the morning," she whispered, kissing me gently on the cheek as she bid me good night. I turned and kissed her once again, and I could see her face was aglow and radiant as she peered up at me. "Let me call in sick," I pleaded. She only smiled and said good night, trying to wipe away the lipstick she had implanted on my lips with her fingers. No one at work knew I was seeing Rose, and I dare say Rose never told anyone of her acquaintances at work or our relationship. Minutes?
4.
There was none of the petty gossip and snide remarks regarding our friendship, which was so prevalent in a closely quartered organization such as ours. So the girls would always be chattering in that office, right?
Yeah.
Always gossiping, right?
Yeah, always gossipy, yeah.
It was like a real hen house, right?
Yeah.
A damn hen
That's
house.
when I went bowling.
Was Rose a bowler?
Yeah, she bowled, yeah.
Did she bowl with her parents?
Parents didn't bowl.
Did your parents ever bowl?
No.
No.
My mother could never pick up a bowling ball. My father probably drop it out of his porch.
Did your brothers bowl?
Look, he was a pin center. He bowled. Stevie bowled, but it was just for recreation, just to say, look, I'm a bowler. Yeah, that was the thing then.
Did they all have uniforms?
Who?
Your brothers, they had bowling uniforms?
No, if you had a team, Kimberly had a team, and they had green shirts.
Did they wear bowling uniforms to work?
No.
No.
Well, you didn't go to bowl until after 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock.
So they have their own uniforms with Kimberly-Clark on them, and they'd have their own balls that have initials on them, right? They had their special balls that they carry around.
At the bowling alley.
Yeah, they all think they're like professional bowlers.
Who?
The workers at Kimberly, did they think they were like professional bowlers?
No. We were?
No, some of the workers at Kimberly think they were professional.
Oh, yeah. Now, Dixie Davis. Hi, Dixie Davis. How's the bowling? Oh, you're great. You're great on the bowling. Yeah, Dixie Davis.
So Dixie Davis was the star of Kimberly, right?
2 minutes.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to Dixie Davis?
Jesus, I don't know.
He was a Marine.
No. He got drafted. He got to the service. He already got killed, I think.
Oh, really? Yeah.
No, he went to the Pacific.
Okay. Would you ever think about going to the Pacific?
No, but I hope the hell they were going to send us because the war was winding down in Europe, and that was the next step. And then they dropped the bomb, and the war was over.
That was the end of it. But an interesting fact, when the war was winding down in Europe, most of the GIs were saying, let's get this thing over with and get us home on a point system. But it wasn't General Patton. He says, let's get this thing over quickly because I want to get over to the Pacific,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to let anyone...
Yeah, he's a fighter. He's a fighter. He's an army, strictly
He says, I
army.
didn't want any generals to take a title or take credit. I want to get...
Yeah, well, these top generals fought with that, but they were the top hardest job over there, fighting Germans or fighting the Japanese for that.
So Hitler...
And they got more credit.
So Patton's major goal in Europe was to go face to face with Hitler and shoot him, but that never happened because Hitler committed suicide. But
Takes out his boy grave or something.
yeah, he'd do that too. But it was funny when you're talking about piss. When the top supreme commander Eisenhower told Patton, "Don't cross that Rhine. You're not prepared. You don't have the equipment." Patton still did it. He was very aggressive. He still did it, and to show the world that he was the top dog and that he disliked the Germans so greatly, he whipped it out when he got on the German enemy side. He pissed in the Rhine.
Yeah, Eisenhower actually, what's that son of a bitch doing over there?
Yeah. He was
Eisenhower said that.
Patton was very hard.
Eisenhower had a tough job picking those guys in control.
Yeah, because all the
They
generals.
had all big eagles.
That's correct.
10 seconds.
All the generals had great big eagles.
Yeah.
And it was a tough job for Eisenhower to keeping a lid on it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Especially